Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Okay, so the polling analysis continues, and frankly, we might just be headed towards a I told you so moment. I've been sitting here playing counter to the narrative basically since day one of Kamala Harris's big hype cycle. Now, of course, this is nothing new. I did the same thing back in 2016. In 2016, I was right. 2020, I was wrong, in air quotations, of course. And in 2024, I mean, we don't know yet, but I'm sticking to it. I'm sticking to my guns. I'm still expressing the exact same feeling. I'm just not frickin' buying it. I think there's too much of a polling discrepancy. I think the numbers are fluctuating way too much. It's way too volatile. And what I find really, utterly confusing is that even the numbers that Democrats are supposedly celebrating as being so good for Kamala Harris, well, even those numbers are all historic lows. It's nothing to write home about. So essentially, as I continue to delve into the numbers, as more numbers continue to drop, I'm becoming more and more skeptical of the official narrative. And today that feeling goes into frickin' overdrive. We just got two polls that are very likely causing extreme panic within the DNC. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so I first want to start off with this latest poll that just dropped. We've got a CNN SSRS poll. You know, it's officially a CNN SSRS poll, but we'll just call it a CNN poll just, for the sake of making it easier. We've got a CNN poll that honestly I think is shocking the left. The latest poll that drops shows Kamala Harris nationally, with only likely voters polled, with a +1 lead over Donald Trump. That's at 48% to Trump's 47%. And this is obviously horrible for the Kamala campaign. And I'm not a Democrat, so I'm not just going to say that and then leave it there. Donald Trump is bad for the economy because, okay, next subject. No, I'm going to say this is obviously bad for Kamala Harris, and then I'll explain why. Leftoids ought to take a freaking note. It's bad for a few reasons. Firstly, this is a national poll result. The common knowledge is that Democrats, in order to win in the Electoral College, need to be winning nationally by at least 4 to 5 points. This is because in terms of national numbers, they tend to get more support because they control all the major cities, the major population areas across the nation. And so in order to overcome that, to win in the swing states, they need quite the significant lead. I mean, they really need to be ahead. Being ahead 1 point is not a great situation for a Democrat candidate, and especially not an incumbent Democrat candidate. Now, Kamala Harris isn't technically an incumbent, but in a certain way she kind of is. She's Joe Biden's vice president, and she's taking over after only one term of the Biden-Harris administration, and so you got Democrat incumbent leading by 1 point in the polls. That is devastating. And it's not only devastating due to the Electoral College calculus, it's devastating due to the margin of error, or I guess the political bias throughout the history of these CNN polls. Friends, let's travel back in time, shall we? As we know, everything is eternal on the internet these days. I'm going to pop this up on screen. What you see are all the last polls right ahead of Election Day that CNN was releasing ahead of the 2020 election. This is the election that I got wrong. We had polls showing Joe Biden up by 16 points, and I was saying Trump can still do it. Now Trump's basically in a dead even tie nationally, and Democrats expect us to give up? To cower? To just say, oh, well, I guess that's a wrap, folks. Go home. Kamala Harris is crowned the victor. Give me a frickin' break. She's polling horribly. And I mean, just look, the last two polls that they released, roughly around the same period. The last poll was conducted on the 1st of October. We're now late September, so roughly around the same time period. They had Joe Biden up 16 points. I don't know. If I was a Democrat, I wouldn't be so confident. But of course, the issues, the red flags, don't end there. We got another element here that I think is pretty important, and that's, I think, 5% undecided voters. We already know that undecided voters are likely, or at least based on our analysis that we've done over the last couple of months, independent undecided voters are likely to split for Trump. And so this 1 point national deficit could actually not be a deficit at all. It could be a tie. It could be Trump taking the lead. A couple of weeks ago, the head pollster at Rasmussen claimed that he believes, based on the current number that they're getting, that Donald Trump has a good chance of winning the national vote. Now, of course, the Rasmussen polling data has evened out a little bit since then, but again, even if that's the case, that's still good for Trump. If Trump is tied nationally, Democrats simply cannot win in Pennsylvania. And so obviously the outlook isn't looking so great. We covered that Emerson/The Hill swing state poll from last week as well, which shows the race in all the swing states pretty much is clearly moving towards Trump's direction. And we've got more polls suggesting that from Insider Advantage, Marist, Rasmussen. Let's just say the trend is clear. And now, well, I'd argue it's getting even clearer. It's not just the CNN poll, friends. It's also Quinnipiac. As I'm saying this, I mean, you can hear the leftoids screeching, "No, not Quinnipiac." I mean, that is the one pollster that you would never expect to be showing these kinds of results throughout the entire Joe Biden versus Trump election cycle, we can call it. Even when Trump was leading in the average across the board in all the swing states, in all the general election head-to-head matchups, Quinnipiac showed Joe Biden leading throughout the entire time. It is the most left-wing partisan poll out there. It's just like the CNN poll, actually. It's, frankly, trash. And, well, you get exactly where I'm going with this. In the latest Quinnipiac poll, well, look at the numbers. We've got 1,700 likely voters polled on the 22nd of September, and what we've got is a dead tie. Again, Democrats are acting all confident and so bullish, but I don't know if I'm seeing the same story. You know, supposedly Kamala is so much better than Joe Biden, but I don't know if the voters actually see it that way. And I don't know if the pollsters are tapping into it. I mean, just to help put that into perspective, I found this data, which I think is frankly shocking. What you see here are all the internal Teamster union polls that were conducted before Joe Biden dropped out of the race and after. So basically you got Teamster polls between candidate Biden and Trump and Teamster polls between candidate Kamala Harris and Trump. The shifts are monumental. Let's start off with Arizona. We got a 43-point shift. Biden was leading by 24 points, but since Kamala Harris entered the race, Trump is now ahead by 18. In Pennsylvania, Biden was up by a little less than 1%, but as Kamala Harris enters the race and Joe Biden exits, Trump is now supposedly up, Teamster union members, by 34 points. In Michigan, Biden was up 26. Now Trump's up 26. In Minnesota, Biden was up by 20. Now that it's Trump versus Kamala, Trump is up by 25. Nevada, pretty much same thing. North Carolina, pretty much the same thing. Wisconsin, same thing. Virginia, same thing. You pretty much get the point. The idea here is that Kamala is bae, Kamala is this, Kamala is that, but I'm not sure that's the case. She's now polling worse than Joe Biden was in the Quinnipiac poll. She's polling worse than Joe Biden was with unions. She's polling equally as bad with black voters. You know, it seems like there's a disconnect between the crosstabs, between what we're seeing with people's actual views on the ground and what's being represented in the headline numbers. Last week's NBC poll, I think, pretty much puts it all into perspective. The national results showed Trump down, I think, 5 or 6 points, but within the poll, Trump surged 14 points with independents, and Latino voters supposedly shifted 19 points in favor of Donald Trump. So again, it's kind of the same pattern now, isn't it? The headline number says Trump doesn't stand a chance, but if you read into it, Trump's doing well. He's doing historically well. And now it seems as though Democrats are on the path of possibly even losing the headline number, you know, really just the headline. They love linking just the headline itself and nothing else. They're possibly at risk now of losing these headlines because Trump is now starting to take over in some of the most partisan left-wing polls in a national head-to-head contest. And they're seriously implying that he should just give up and resign. Give me a freaking break. Seriously, I need a break from this absolute stupidity. I'm not saying Trump's gonna win, but he's certainly not on track to lose. This election is gonna be close like the 2020 election, and honestly, I'm just gonna say it, I really wouldn't be surprised if Trump ended with more than 300 electoral votes in the end. But of course, we'll have to see exactly what happens. I'm not making that my official prediction, just saying I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. I guess we'll see. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.